Work Month as we look forward to celebrating World Social Work Day on the 17th of March next week, 2026. So social workers, happy Social Work Month. Okay. So my name's Susan Muchiri. I think maybe you can just clap as a reaction as we celebrate our World Social Work Month. Yeah, you can send your reaction on the group. Yeah, so welcome very much. I hope everyone, wherever they are, you are trying to at how we can promote the core values of social work and let our fellow compatriots know about social work. Okay, so welcome. I see quite a number of people. I see from Nigeria, Malawi, Malaysia, Berlin, UK. You are all welcome. This just goes to show us the way our social work is interconnected. And it goes with our theme for this World Social Work Day, which is called Building Hope and Harmony, a Harambee Call to Unite a Divided Society. And you know, today we are talking about Ubuntu. We are having our third Ubuntu pedagogy class, looking at Harambee. So as we look forward even to June, all this is what we are looking at now. We have people from all over the world uniting, yeah, despite whatever is going on around us. So I would like to welcome you very much. Please feel at home in this social work space, and you are welcome. As Rugare said, if you have any comment, you can put on the group. We will be following up. Okay, so as we look at Harambee, we are talking about pulling ourselves together, coming together in solidarity, bringing what we have, what each one has, because in social work, we believe that everyone has something to share and everyone can contribute to building our society. And then when we look at Ubuntu, Ubuntu looks at I am because you are. So when we bring all this together and we look at social work, we look at social work at the micro, meso, and macro level. And all these levels need us to pull together and need us to try our best to bring our communities where we would like them to be in terms of sustainable development. So welcome, everyone. I'll give the floor to Rugare.
Thank you very much, Susan, for that. So I'll just add to your own introduction. Susan is the secretary of the Association of Schools of Social Work in Africa. I am Rugare Mugumbate. I'm convener from Tandao, which is the African Social Work and Development Network. Thank you, Susan, for starting the day for us. And thank you, everyone, for attending. This is the first webinar for the year, a collaboration between ASSWA and Tandao. And I'm happy to see more of those people who registered in the room today. And as Susan said, these people are from different continents. I would want to start by talking about the pedagogical approach that we take for this masterclass, then ask our people joining the conversation, leading the conversation, to introduce themselves quickly. Then I go through the 3 slides that I have, then hand over to the next person in the conversation. This masterclass takes a conversational approach. We believe this is more relevant to engage a lot of people in one place, but also more relevant because it acknowledges the relational nature of Ubuntu, since this is a Ubuntu pedagogical class. So we're going to have people leading the conversation. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that. We've got a few minutes each, about 5 minutes each. Then we move on to a discussion that involves everyone. So I'm inviting you to contribute to the discussion. Learning in this class happens when we all contribute to the discussion. We want to make this an environment where everyone is respected and everyone has got an opportunity to say something. May not be possible with 55 people in the room, so you can use the chat, please. You can also raise a question or a comment after each and every person joining the conversation. So I'm going to go first. I've got, as I said, just a few slides. And before I start, I just want to say, if Mainrad, if you please join, let me know there's still an opportunity for you to give your part of the story. So I'm going to share my slides. Okay, there I am. Yes, my slides have got more content than usual, which is good because we want to say a lot of things in a very short space of time. So we are talking about Harambee today. And in talking of Harambee, I would want to talk about what society is. Why is that important? It's really important because Harambee goes beyond the individual, it goes beyond the family, it goes beyond the community. So when we're talking about social work and development and Harambee, we are looking at a higher level. We are looking at a societal level. So society here, that's the simplest definition of society that I have here, is the broadest human collective. That's in very simple terms. So when we are practicing or when we are talking about Harambee, we are talking about practice or intervention at the societal level. Why is that so, and why is that important? Because Harambee contributes at that higher level. How do we know that this intervention is at Harambee level? There are a number of key factors to consider. One of them is the scale. When you are intervening as a development worker, as a development practitioner, and you are dealing with whole of society, all people involved, you know this is Harambee in terms of intervention. When you are dealing with issues at macro level, where everyone is involved, the intervention focuses on the on society as a whole, macro level, then you know that this is Harambee. When you are doing social work, for example, whom do you involve? Not a community, not a family, not an individual, but the whole of society is included. Then we say, yes, this is Harambee. It is not Harambee when you are focusing on a specific group of people. When Harambee was used in countries where it was about ensuring that people contribute in their various ways, but why were they contributing? For the development of society. So when we are talking about Harambee, let's take it beyond the community. There can be activities that are done at family level or community level, but the ultimate goal is to achieve a society that is inclusive for all, to achieve a society that considers people and their different aspirations. So if we are working at meso level, for example, when we are doing community development, that's not Harambee. Harambee goes further than that. We are doing things that have got a focus of contributing to society. When we are focusing on people sharing an identity or a location or an interest, that's on its own is not enough to say what we are doing in terms of social work or development or human services is Harambee. So Harambee looks at the larger picture. And when we look at the larger picture, there are some principles to consider. Three things that I would want to emphasize if we want an activity or an intervention to pass the test of Harambee. One, as I said before, does it contribute at societal level? Then number two, is it carried out at the societal level? Then number three, it develops society as a whole. This is an extension of what I said earlier, and this makes up Harambee. And as you see, what disqualifies it from being Harambee, it's not contributing to these three. So when you are a social worker, you are planning an activity, you are a community development worker, you are planning an activity, and it's at the first level of intervention. Usually we call this micro level in social work. It's about relations or relationships. We call that ukama. Then it falls short of a Harambee. When you are doing it at communal or community level, and we call this Ujamaa. You are operating at the community level. You want the community to do better, to be more cohesive. That's Ujamaa. Harambee is highlighted in the middle there. When you are doing a Harambee, you are doing things that contribute to the collective, that contribute to society as a whole, beyond the individual, beyond the family, and also beyond the group. You can also do interventions that contribute at the environmental level, which is umvelo, or that contribute at the uroho level, which is the spiritual level. But for today, for this masterclass, we are more interested in those activities that contribute at the societal level. This is my last slide. You are probably feeling provoked by these ideas on Harambee. That's what we seek to do at the Africa Social Work and Development Network. We want to provoke our audience so that we all think beyond the usual. We think and build knowledge together so that we've got a stronger knowledge base for social services in Africa and beyond, in ways that encourage debate, but also in ways that decolonize. At Africa Social Work and Development Network, this is how we see Ubuntu. This is how we see Harambee, or Harambee, beyond the family, beyond the community, but focusing on structural issues in society. I would want to end here by inviting questions, by inviting discussion. I don't know if it is time for questions now, Susan, but happy to hand over to the next speaker. If it is time for questions, I'm happy to take some questions.
So thank you, Rugare, for your presentation. Yes, I think I will give each speaker 5 minutes. So we will welcome Dr. Wilkins. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity and for this time. So I'm happy to meet all of you, and I've seen many of my friends, even from West Africa and the rest of the world. So where I am is morning, so good morning. And I'll go straight to the presentation. I hope I'm able to share from my side.
I've got a PDF and I'm happy to share it if that is all right.
Okay, yeah, you can share.
Yeah. There you are.
So thank you very much. So I am Dr. Wilkins Ndage Muhingi from Kenya, and you can just move on. So mine was to look at tools and just to demonstrate Harambee, and this is giving insights from East Africa. So you can move on. So I will not spend much on the introduction, but I work at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, and I also represent the East African region under ASSWA. You can move on. So Harambee, from my reading and from my experience, seems to be working throughout, beyond even Africa, within Africa, but it's so much associated by the former, or the first president of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta. Now giving it from that context, after independence, 1963, we realized that Kenya was not doing very well. And of course, there are many gaps, and services were not well extended to everyone. They were a bit inadequate and inaccessible to most citizens. So there was need to do something to make sure everyone benefits and gets their services. So this was aimed to pull together. And as it has been mentioned by earlier speakers, Harambee basically is a concept of pulling together. It's not a theory, it's a philosophy, because it's about beliefs. It guides the worldview. So it doesn't necessarily explain or maybe help us to predict. So it became known as Harambee, and it has applied in Rwanda and Burundi. It's called Umuganda. It operates like that. It's a form of Harambee, but it's called Umuganda. And then of course we have Uganda and the other parts. So just a bit of a background is that this is a philosophy with Kenya, which is applied within Kenya and other parts of even East Africa, pulling together, and it is now very popular, and it demonstrates how communities can mobilize resources and work together. We can move on. Yes, so some of the tools, I will not read everything, but one is community fundraising. It is very commonly used to fundraise, to raise funds so that people can be helped, especially when it comes to building schools, medical treatment. Maybe someone is sick and they are not able to afford paying school fees, and we have many children who are vulnerable, and or students, and then constructing churches, community halls, and any other resource that may be needed. So community fundraising is one tool. The other one is collective labor, self-help, like Harambee can also be used to help yourself or the community, and even at a larger level, the society, to help themselves in terms of construction of, for example, schools, classrooms, road maintenance. Like where I live, we usually, sometimes when there's a lot of rain, we contribute money and we do the roads. We don't wait for the government. Digging water wells and community farm initiatives. We can move on. Tool number 3 is social capital. You know, when you come together, then you have some energy or power or networks. So community networks, Harambee relies heavily on social relations. And of course, those who guide either local leaders, elders, who bring people together because there must be coordination. So key actors, like in Kenyan case or in East Africa, we have local chiefs and elders, we have religious leaders, youth groups, women, and of course, community-based organizations. We can move on to the next. Yes, and then there is the leadership mobilization. Yeah, so political and even community leaders, the ones I've also mentioned as some of the actors, they support events because they also want to mobilize resources. So some of the projects that can be done are schools, hospitals, water projects, and community development initiatives. So it's a way of mobilizing. So the tool of leadership. Yes, the other one. The other slide. We can move on. Yeah, then we have cultural norms and moral obligations. Sorry, you've moved very fast. The last one was...
this one? So here.
Go back to... No, yes, that one. Cultural norms and the moral obligation is the last one. So when we look at Harambee, Harambee functions through shared cultural expectations. As I said, it is a philosophy. It's about beliefs and values. So it encourages values, for example, solidarity, mutual aid, collective responsibility, and so on. And it is like Ubuntu, and as we have talked about Ubuntu, Dr. Rugare has mentioned already this. So Harambee can fit in within Ubuntu, just like you saw on his last slide. Yeah, you can move to the next. Yeah, so this is just an image and of course a case study. This is one of the hospitals. There are many hospitals in Kenya, dispensaries, hospitals, and even schools. So this is just an example of Kaptet Hospital in the Rift Valley part of Kenya. So Harambee initiatives support dispensary building and clinics, funding medical treatment, as I have said, organizing blood donation drives. Or you want to help someone else because you believe we are all one. We want solidarity. In solidarity, we are standing with others, and so on. Yeah, so that marks the end. The last slide, I think, is just yes. Yeah. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope I have not taken more than the allocated time.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Wilkins. Members, can we encourage Dr. Wilkins with a clap? Can we give him a reaction for telling us about Harambee? So I don't know, is Mainrad around? Mainrad, are you in? Mainrad, are you in? Okay, so maybe we can continue with Corlie. Corlie, you are welcome very much. You have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone from Pretoria, South Africa. It's wonderful to be in such a huge group of people from all over the world, and I'm very glad to be able to share with you today. I stand here with the hat of ASSWA here today, but I also work at the University of Pretoria in the Department of Social Work and Criminology. So I was asked to talk a little bit about the lived experiences of Harambee. And if I can just link with what Professor Rugare said about the fact that it is on a societal level, I just want to emphasize again that it is about social responsibility in the broader context, shared prosperity, cooperative economics, and also collaboration. And what I'm going to share today with you is just looking at Harambee more from a current perspective or a modern perspective as we have it in our society today. And I'm speaking specifically from South Africa and the examples that we have here. So I can see Harambee embodied in projects like these, where there's youth employment accelerators for all the youth in South Africa, unemployed young people. And currently we have this project in South Africa. There's about more than 500 businesses involved in this whole process, where government and civil society and businesses take hands. So we see there the cooperation that we have. There's also local entrepreneurship support. There are young people that are creating informal businesses in townships, local businesses. It's about selling goods to neighbors. And it's very much for young people in South Africa about moving beyond the dependence on grants that we have in our country, because we have a huge social protection floor in South Africa to actually protect people from total poverty and hunger and suffering like that. So young people need to also move away from only that to become more self-reliant. What we see now currently is digital skills training that is becoming very, very popular, and also solar training to operate solar systems. It's a focus on green jobs. So I think that's also very much in line with the SDGs to move towards a society that is more green, relying on different initiatives that consumes energy and can actually combat global warming. So this is very important to help our young people already to move into this. Then there's also support for informal economy workers. So like, for instance, there would be people in communities that have Wi-Fi routers, and they would avail that to others, so that there's more connection, digital connection for everybody, so that the internet connectivity can be shared among communities. And I think that again builds collaboration in society, so that people are not excluded, because we don't want digital exclusion, because that also becomes a different kind of social injustice. So mentorship and networking is the other one that's important in our society. It's peer-driven recruitment in hospitals, specifically in retail, and using community networks to find a work support that's been given there, and a peer-led hiring approach, so that people share job opportunities with one another, create a network, use that to have more people employed. So that is also on a broader level. However, unfortunately, everything is not as it was in the past if we look at concepts like Ubuntu and Harambee. So what is also currently a challenge for us? We can go to the next one. Unfortunately, due to the high socioeconomic pressures that we have in South Africa, and I think elsewhere in Africa as well, there is still inequality regarding unemployment and employment opportunities. So there's very much for people today in South Africa a swim or sink mentality, because I think it's also brought about by this modern economic life that have really disrupted traditional communal living. So it's everybody for themselves. So I'm not necessarily going to care about the person next to me. Also, the huge urbanization and that has happened, South Africa modernization. It's very much communal life is not so existent. So whenever I am in a situation where I can speak to local people, I ask, and I've been close to community in Cape Town the other day, and I asked people, how connected are communities still? And what they told me is, you know what, if we see somebody that's being beaten or a crime is occurring, we rather stay in our houses. We don't go out because we might also be killed. So there's not that kind of traditional support that someone would run out and they would say, no, don't hurt this person, we will help you. And that has really eroded the communal values in societies today. Of course, throughout Africa, we still have colonialism's remnants and challenges in South Africa of apartheid. So there's also those historical impacts, divisions, lines that are there, inequalities that is happening, and political fragmentation. So that also challenges communal values. And then, of course, generational gaps. Ago, I asked in my first year class, who of you would care for their elderly parents? And most of them said they will. And then one student said, no, I will not. And she said, they have to look after themselves because I have to look after myself. And this is a student that comes from a background in a rural area where the traditional values are so prevalent, but that is how young people's thinking have been changing towards this. So that is very, very unfortunate that we are at that point and we have to try and change that. So what can researchers do? So if we think about research that we do in terms of Harambee or even the other concepts that we have, the key research theme still falls within community development because that is where we want to rebuild connection and sustainability. We have to look at mutual aid and resilience. Like I've said just now, what is happening with mutual aid and resilience in our societies today? Does it still exist? Where does it exist? How can we foster it and develop it more? Education and youth is critical because we are looking at projects to also enable education and youth development, and the same with the economy in employment. And then I think what we are doing very much here on this platform is to advance Indigenous knowledges. But it seems to me as if we have to look at Indigenous knowledges and also interpret it in our context today. Research approaches, you all know it, I want to emphasize participatory action research, and also photo, voice and community mapping is very valuable for doing this work. I'm not going to say more about this. Many of you are researchers, so you know what we can do. So you can move on to my next slide, please. Okay, this is just a last thought. Harambee reminds us that when communities pull together, no challenge is too great. And collective action transforms lives and strengthens bonds, even in the face of the challenges that I have just mentioned. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Corlie, and thank you for those who are reacting to encourage our speakers. So before I invite Olabisi, I would like to encourage anyone who has any resources to share them online. You can just send the resources or the link online on the chat. Whoever has books on Harambee, Ubuntu, what you think is interesting and necessary in line with our World Social Work Day celebrations and in line with the theme of our third Ubuntu pedagogy class. I think I'll remind Corlie and Rugare about sending the links for our social media pages for ASSWA and for ASSWDNet so that everyone can be able to go to the link and see and contribute. So Olabisi, you are welcome. You have your 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you for this opportunity. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon from all over the world. My name is Olabisi Adebawo. I serve as the Ethics Officer at the African Independent Ethics Committee, ASSWDNet. I am joining you today from Nigeria. I want to open this conversation with a single word, Harambee. Behind this word is a profound idea that a society coming together as a whole is the most powerful force we can have for lasting change. That is what today's masterclass is all about. Slide 2, please. Slide 2. Thank you. What is Harambee? So What is Harambee and what will it cover today? We will move through Harambee principles, its application in global practice, real world examples, the barriers we face, and the path forward. But first, the concept itself. Harambee is the art of coming together, not as the individual level, not at the individual level, not at the family level, not at the community level. Harambee operates at the societal level, where collective mobilization creates lasting, transformative change that is the distinction that matters. Harambee means valuing society, coming together as a society to address problems that belongs to each and every one of us. Slide 3, please. Slide 3. Okay, thank you. Harambee is grounded in 4 core principles. First, human rights and dignity, which is very important, especially in today's world. Harambee calls us to uphold not just individual rights, but collective rights of the society as a whole to self-determine and flourish together as a community. Second, social justice, where society mobilizes as a whole, we challenge structural inequalities in their roots, not just in their symbols. Third, collective responsibility. Social problems are not individuals' failures. They are shared societal challenges that require the full engagement of all social actors, governments, professionals, and citizens alike. That is the stakeholders. The fourth is society-led practice. Harambee evaluates our work to societal level and call for a whole societal approaches to development and well-being. Slide 4, please. Now, slide 4 talks about how does Harambee show up in practice. Harambee shows up in 4 ways. All of society mobilization. Harambee frames development as societal projects, mirroring the UN-owned all of society approach to sustainable development goal as SDG goals. And number 2, decolonizing social work. Harambee offers us an African-rooted framework center on indigenous knowledge and collective agency as legitimate foundation for professional practice. This is important. Number 3, societal cohesion and national building. In post-conflict setting, Harambee rebuilds social trust by mobilizing society around shared identity and community, especially now in our society. We need that more than ever. The 4th one, policy and government. Practitioner-informed Harambee advocates for societal solidarity from universal social protection to participatory governance, embedding collective well-being as a state responsibility. Slide 5, please. The 5th slide.
It is showing from my end. I think there's a delay.
Okay, thank you. Now, imagine what becomes possible when Harambee is embedded in institutions that shape our world. United Nations shifts from coordinating states to mobilizing entire societies behind SDGs and human rights agenda. The African Union Agenda 2063 is a genuine Pan-African societal solidarity, moving development beyond ethics, elite governments and into the hands of African society. National governments design policy for every member of society, and closing the gap between institutional decisions and lived reality. Regional blocks, ECOWAS and SAD and others advance societal cohesion alongside trade and security. And all institutions, when guided by Harambee, build progress that is inclusive, equitable, and to build a lasting solution for us all. Now I'm going to go to the examples, barriers, and the path forward. We have proof that it works, that Harambee works. Take, for instance, now in Ghana, National Societal Protection Policy, United Government, NGO, and social services professional. This is a genuine whole of society effort and a model at national governance. Then number two, South Africa co-developed a national social services framework that mobilized society-wide responses for vulnerable populations. But for barriers, barriers remain. Structures, competing institutional priorities, power imbalance, and insufficient resources and data. These are things that's been dragging Africa as a nation backwards. The path forward is this: build a societal dialogue forum, demonstrate collective impacts through data, align joint planning to share goals, embed social services expertise at the heart of national policy. Harambee is not just a distant idea, it is a call to action. When society comes together truly, common good becomes a shared reality for us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Olabisi. Thank you for that. Thank you also, all participants, for your reactions. I'll invite our last speaker, Mainrad. Mainrad, are you ready? Your 5 minutes. You have your 5 minutes. Okay. I am not sure if Mainrad has been able to join us. I know he was trying to join. If he's not able to join, if he's not around, maybe I will hand the floor back to Rugare.
Thank you very much, Susan, and thank you to our panel for delivering your insights on Harambee. It's now time for us to go to the questions. If you could check in the chat, Susan, if there are questions in the chat, you could prioritize those before we take participants from the floor.
Okay, I know I had seen Olabisi mentioning there was a question. So the first question, I think our panelists are listening. So the first question is this, asked by Fitzgerald. So Harambee is social work at a macro level, right? Can you please, can you please explain? Then the next question, which I see, is another question by Nikki Jefferson. Are there issues with completing Harambee projects in societies that are quite divided? For example, if society struggles to agree on what should be worked on or developed. I think those are the two questions which I see in the chat. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to take the first question, then another person takes the second one. I understand the first question is about whether Harambee is operating at the macro or at the higher level when we are talking about social work. My response to that is yes. Harambee is operating at the macro level, beyond community, beyond individual, beyond family. In most cases, when we talk of Harambee, we are considering just one aspect of it, which is community. I think Olabisi touched on this in a presentation. Community, intervening at the community level to fit into the societal is one aspect of it. But there are other aspects to it as well, social justice being one of them, a focus on human rights and dignity being one of them. I can't remember the other one, but in most cases, we think about what we do at the meso level. I would say it's Harambee when you do it at the meso level to contribute to society as a whole, because ultimately what we want to do is to ensure that society does well. Perhaps for other people, it's when Harambee started, there were small projects happening in Kenya, motivated by the pronouncement by then President Jomo Kenyatta. But in my view, which is open for discussion, that was all done to ensure that the society, the Kenyan society, thrives or addresses the challenges that it was facing. Whether the thing was done at the community level or at the societal level, the key question for me is, was it done to achieve justice in Kenyan society, to achieve cohesion in Kenyan society well beyond the community? So yes, my answer is yes. And I would want to emphasize the information that was shared by Olabisi on working at the societal level. But also in one of my slides where I said, if it is at the community level, it has to meet that criteria of contributing to the societal level, but not focusing on one community. Thanks. I'm happy to keep the debate, the discussions running around where Harambee sits when we look at the different levels of doing social work.
Who would like to maybe answer the second question? I see more questions coming up in the chat.
Yes.
Is there anyone who wants to answer the second question?
Welcome. Try to answer. Thank you very much. I can try to answer the second question. I think I mentioned in my presentation something to do with the values, and solidarity was coming in. And again, even the meaning of Harambee is pulling together. You cannot pull together unless you are agreeing. Where you are not agreeing, then we will rely on one of the tools I said, leadership mobilization. So you have to get someone who is able to bring you together. Otherwise, Harambee may not work when you are not agreeing with each other. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so thank you. I see quite a number of questions. So what I want to do, I want to read all of them, and then the panelists can choose which one they will answer. I see quite a number. So here I have a question from speakers. It seems that Harambee can be both macro level and meso level, as well as like building schools, community, and farming. I think participants, let us mute. Let us mute. We can hear someone speaking. Second question, sir, do you think that this Harambee is really working in all countries? Third question, but how does it operate beyond community? Does it operate at society level? Could you please give us an example? Vishante, you're very much welcome. Isn't one of the challenges in the pursuit of Harambee deciding what constitutes the common good and the strategies to be used to achieve this common good? Okay. We are living in a world marked by national and global geopolitical divisions and competing ideological leanings that have profound consequences for individuals, families, communities, and societies at large. How do we move beyond rhetoric of Ubuntu and Harambee to engage in concerted action and solidarity to address some of the most pressing challenges of our times? I think panelists, you are taking note. Okay, so I think this one was an observation. our current societies are not connected anymore. We have dysfunctional families that lack morals and so forth. Are we still going to be able to sustain Harambee? So there was more comments, but I just took a short clip from there. Okay, I think that's it, as I will continue going down. And then someone is asking, is it possible to get the slides in our email? I think Rugare will respond to that. So I give the floor back to the panelists to try and answer the different questions that have come up. You are welcome. Whoever is ready can answer.
I may start, if you don't mind.
Yes, welcome, Wilkins.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think for me, I would say we can sustain. It depends on the approach. Like in Kenya, at some point, especially now when you look at mobilizing resources, especially financial resources, after building schools, because you see we were filling a gap. Then now we have so many schools, even, well, we may not say they are enough, but after having even built hospitals, some of which may even not be having medication and so on. The problems that were solved using Harambee or guided by Harambee, those problems are still, so I think we can sustain. So what I wanted to say is at some point, politicians would even take advantage of it, and they use that to get political mileage. But then at some point, they were stopped not to do even to engage in this Harambee, especially of contributing money and taking advantage. But then we still see this happening. Actually, in the modern times, why I say to an extent we can sustain some of this is I even see this happening on WhatsApp. People contribute, they form WhatsApp groups and then they contribute money, and it's a very easy, actually it's easier than how it happened long time ago. So people contribute money and then they send it to one pool, and then the money is used to pay either hospital bills, build something, or even weddings or whatever, social events. Yeah, so I think it's sustainable. And then the other thing I think why we are talking about this, especially in African context, is to say that we also have something important. We don't necessarily have just to embrace everything that is foreign. So if there is what communicates about our realities, like Harambee, like Ujamaa, like all those that have been mentioned here, then why can't we utilize them? And again, I mentioned that this is not a theory. It's not like it's helping us predict or explain, but it's guiding a worldview, kind of. So I don't know. I hope I've tried to answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wilkins. Other panelists?
Yes, Susan, if I can speak. I can perhaps address the issue of when people, the comments were there that, you know, governments perhaps abuse these kinds of concepts in the end and expect citizens to do the work themselves. Now, there are two things about it. I think politics is always some self-interest. I don't think it's different. But if governments are not going to take up their responsibilities, the people will do it. So that is what we see currently in South Africa. There are many communities that have started rebuilding their own communities regarding rebuilding infrastructure, where our government is currently failing to maintain infrastructure and municipalities are failing to do it. And in the end, people take back their communities. However, if policies do not change and it's not influenced, then yes, we do have a problem. Therefore, people have to challenge existing policies, have to challenge existing political leaders continuously. I don't think it's a process that can ever stop. But I do know one thing is that as human beings, we want to survive. And we will do anything to do that in the end and take hands. There was also the comment that do these concepts not also exist elsewhere in the world? I absolutely believe it does. I think the concept of building together, taking hands, reinforcing community exists everywhere in the world in some format, but we just give different names to it. But I think it is human nature to, in the end, pull together and try to support one another, although this might be eroded by values in society that's not upheld. Also the issue of our children and values. I think much of this must be brought back to values. Do we respect one another? Do we have regard for human life? Do we believe that we must be empowered? So those values can be brought back to our houses and our children, which can then again filter through to how we live in society. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe let me read the following questions, and then Rugare, you will let us know.
I wrote down 2 questions. I can pick on those. Is that all right?
Hello, you are saying?
Yes, I wrote down 2 questions. I'm happy to provide my insights on those.
Okay.
Now,
okay.
Thank you. So yes, I do agree with what my colleagues said, Muhingi and Corlie, about the significance of Harambee, but also the significance of using what we have in terms of knowledge on the African continent, and how it should not only be for Africa, but it should impact social work and development as it happens elsewhere. In the same manner, we also use approaches from outside Africa, from the Pacific, from Asia, from the Caribbean, from America, or from Europe or the Middle East. So our knowledge should also be able to influence what happens outside the continent. So one participant asked, so does Harambee operate at both the meso, I think they said the micro, which is the lower level, and the macro, so the lower and the in the higher level. I would say activities geared towards Harambee or that use the Harambee approach can be available at the lower levels of practice. But if we are doing it for the benefit of one group, one specific group, let it remain there. If we're using social work terminology, then we are looking at community work and community development. But we also know that community work and community development feeds into the societal level. So if we are doing it at the community level to feed into societal development as a whole, which is a whole of society approach, for me, it is Harambee. If we are just doing it at the lower level, for the benefit of the lower level, for the sake of distinction, I would want it to remain there. It's community level intervention, which is not Harambee. But if it feeds into development of society, into development of a societal policy or societal progress as a whole, and it meets these 3 dimensions that I talked about, one contributing to societal level, then carried out at the societal level, and it develops society as a whole, it meets the definition. So activities can happen at the lower level, but if they do not have a bearing on the societal level, I hesitate to call them Harambee. An example that I want to give is of the Kenyan society when Harambee was popularized. The idea was to develop Kenya as a whole. While you are developing families and communities, what you are looking at is the growth of Kenyan society as a whole, be it in education, that was a good example, or be it in development of infrastructure, that was another example. That was done to uplift society as a whole. That distinction also sits very well with us in social work and development, if we want to be able to understand the different levels of operating. You could say what happens at the lower level, at the micro level, it's Ukama, which is operating based on the relations that happen at that level. And at the second level, we've got Ujamaa. There's no clear distinction between these things, but if you follow it clearly, you see that from working with the relations, you move on to working with community. From working with community, you go beyond to work with society. Thus, if Ujamaa sits there, it does even help us in the conceptualization of African social work. And of course, beyond that, there will be environmental intervention, then there's also spiritual intervention, and the Harambee sits in the middle. There are other things that you can do at societal level or even spiritual to feed into the societal, which is in between. So that's the way I would want Harambee to be seen. I don't want a version of Harambee that is pruned. It has been removed of all its all the flavors, and what is left is what people want. People want to hear about Ubuntu or Harambee as being kind, being respectful, being together to do small things. How about the bigger things? Who change policies if we don't talk about them? And if we don't give that leverage in our languages or in the way we say things, no one will do that. So when we operate at the societal level, that's when we've got policy change, progress for everyone, not just a small group. If we are working, for example, in the area of gender, we are not saying we want things to be better in this village. Let's do a Harambee. In this small chiefdom, then let's do a Harambee. Let's think at the larger societal level and say, for this society to do better in terms of gender, we need the policies. Who is responsible? One speaker talked about government, talked about the African Union, talked about the United Nations. All those contribute. So I'll dream of a situation where, as social workers, we think of, and community development workers, we think of language that we use in social work and development that talks about addressing issues at the societal level. At the moment, we don't have that language. Harambee presents a very good opportunity, and we need to look at it from a decolonial perspective to say what is popularized in literature, in social media today. If you go there, you Google Harambee, you just find Africans coming together. Harambee is beyond that. And we don't want to repeat the mistakes that happened with Ubuntu, where Ubuntu was just limited to being a good African, being hospitable, being welcoming. That's not Ubuntu. Ubuntu goes beyond to encompass Harambee, to encompass the other levels that I also talked about. I would want to end here to give others a chance to respond to the other questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Rugare. I also see Prof. Sibonsile Sibane has answered a question here, because there's a question on how could one get this Ubuntu or Harambee concept in a culture that is not used at all? Or there's another question, do we risk reinforcing ethnocentrism by emphasizing our African values of Ubuntu and Harambee? Do these values not exist in other parts of the world, perhaps with the use of different concepts? I think, Rugare, you have just answered that, and I see the chat on the chat. There's a question here. Can the speakers please address the contradiction when Harambee shifts government responsibilities back to the citizens? For example, when citizens pay taxes but are still responsible for community security, nutrition, etc. Then there are some comments. There's another question. Where can we get indigenous knowledge? Because the older generation is fading. Okay, yeah. So I think those are the two. I think you're welcome, whoever can be able to answer them. Okay, yes, Corlie.
I'm sure Olabisi is able to say something, yes, or other people in the audience.
Hi,
I think
hello everyone. Sorry. Hello everyone. I have posted some of the answers as a question asked. I've asked some of them. I've posted some of the answers on the chat. But I'm going to say this. Before during pre-colonial era, we were already practicing Harambee. Take for instance now, in Nigeria, we had the compound family, whereby you have the elderly generation, you have the middle age, you have the younger age, and you have the toddlers. So they were all staying in one compound. While the middle age, the able-bodied adults will go out to work and feed the family, the elder generation will take care of the younger ones and will be in charge of kind of like informal education for them. So we're already practicing Harambee. Then in terms of community leadership, every stakeholder, every household had a stakeholder in that household that would defend the rights of its own compound family. And so these people, they came together collectively as a stakeholder to make decisions because they knew, they knew what was going on within the society. They had leaders coming from those societies, so they knew the plight of the people. They knew what people were going through. So all these were existing pre-colonial, during the pre-colonial era. So we were practicing, that's our forefathers were practicing Harambee. But it's just that when the colonial masters came, they messed up a lot of things for us. They gave us their own ideology. We are Africans, and we must apply what was working pre-colonial era for us then, because we had a close kin relationship with each other. We're taking care of our elderly, we're taking care of our young. Crime rates were reduced. There was nothing like how I put it, selfishness or greed. We had it better during the pre-colonial era. So we need to go back to our roots. We need to develop African solutions for African problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. There was an earlier question, Susan, about the slides. Yes, we'll make the slides available as well as the video. I just want to respond to a question that's about taking away responsibility from government. We are, in most cases, we are responsible as social workers or community development workers because we focus on the micro level, and we don't even have a language that we use in Africa to talk about what we can do as social workers and development workers at the macro level. Harambee offers that opportunity. If we talk about policy and we say our responsibility at Harambee is to come up with those policies to challenge government to be responsible and not just to give that responsibility to communities, then we are doing better. But if we take a diluted form of Harambee, we remain on the community and we take away government responsibility. Government should be challenged. We should be there to challenge government by ensuring that there are policies that ensure that everyone in society or of society approach is taken. This feeds into the social development discussion or the social development discourse, going beyond the community to consider what can be done when governments and citizens confront each other, or governments and citizens work together, collaborate to come up with policies that better the lives of all citizens, not groups within society. So that's my take on that, and I think Harambee offers that opportunity if we don't use a diluted version of it.
Yes, I'll invite Corlie, then Wilkins, and I see Mohammed has a question. So Mohammed, you'll go after Wilkins.
All right.
He has
I just want to, sorry, Susan. I just want to respond to the question of what do we do if it is division and we cannot decide on what is most important to be addressed in a society. And I think one of the problems is that there's not enough dialogue regarding the different viewpoints that we have in society. Because I can just mention an example. On Monday, we had an international student symposium from students from South Africa, Australia, and Indonesia, where they discussed very crucial issues in society regarding inequalities and all kinds of problems. And they talked amongst one another. Lecturers were not involved, but they came up with ideas and solutions that we never thought of. So I think societies have, traditional societies, people would spend time, they would eat together, they would talk about things. But today we don't discuss. So what is the most prevalent problem? We have to ask people what's the most prevalent problem. But then we must discuss our different viewpoints and not just assume that we know what someone else is thinking. So I don't think we talk enough. There's not enough dialogue, even with government structures and so forth, to really understand our different viewpoints and our different needs. Co-building together, to me, would also be talking together.
Okay, Wilkins.
Thank you, Corlie.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the question that I was to respond to has partly been responded to, but maybe just to add on when the government takes advantage or maybe leaves what ought to be the responsibility of the government. I think this is possible. And like I gave an example in Kenya, there were politicians who are taking advantage to get mileage, political mileage. But now when it comes to what the government needs to do, they leave it out. Like I also gave the example of where I live. We do the roads. Sometimes when the rain falls and you can't, maybe there's a place, either a bridge or something, it gets spoiled. Even as you wait for the government, you can do something. I think the idea of Harambee is to encourage solidarity, social justice, and all that. But the government, if as social workers or people who are in positions are able to advocate, are able to even build capacity of those who are in government and just encourage emphasize the fact that it's important for the government to do their role, and of course people do their role. But again, it's also possible it can be the other way, that the government may be doing most of the things that even the citizens should be doing. But I know there are some of the policies that are in place, maybe which can be a solution if there are good policies and laws which encourage also the participation of communities, as much as the government is the one to provide these services here and there, but encouraging communities. And I think even when we, like in medical social work in a hospital setting, we may not just say that the government will do everything, will pay, or the community will contribute money for Harambee, because we need to have very good welfare services and systems that support our people. So it's possible that the government can do that, but based on the policies that are there, guidelines that are there, and aligning those with even our practices. For example, in Kenya, in child safeguarding protection, we are now going the way of deinstitutionalization, emphasizing the fact that it's important children to grow in their families and communities. So it's the responsibility of the government, but of course, there's what the community should be able to do. So I think that kind of balance, but I know it's not very easy 100% to balance, but through policies, guidelines, and laws, we should be able to do the same. And then I was also thinking that we can also go beyond just what we are talking about, the origin and the evolutions, as I think it was commented somewhere, that we also look at how Harambee can work in the present times. Usually think about this. You see, like when we are training students, we talk about interprofessional collaboration and all that, even practice. That one is Harambee by itself. You can't help a client alone. Even teaching, like in our school, in our department, I don't teach all the units. There are others who teach from other departments. We co-teach, we co-supervise. So we are pulling together. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay, welcome, Mohammed.
Thank you very much. Guys, all of you, first of all, thank you for the session, and the organizers, very big, thanks to you all, the panelists as well. Greetings from Somalia. I want to comment on someone who asked a question about the old generation is fading, or the old generation, which I belong to. We can access a lot of indigenous knowledge from those who are alive, because we have living legends who have the expertise, who have the indigenous knowledge. But what is required from us is to engage them, to approach them, so that at least we can preserve part of, some have left us, but still we have the good, the living legends from whom we can access that kind of knowledge. But how fast can we do that? How soon can we engage? How should we take it as a priority, that now that we realize where we are heading and what we want, and we know the people who might have this kind of knowledge, in order for us to archive that as academicians, what should we do? I think we need to have a special focus and emphasis on this, so that we go on a project of preserving what we have, because it will infuse a lot of Ubuntu that is not knowledgeable to us at this moment, even titles of Harambee that we are not familiar with, but we can access a lot from them when we approach them, and then we can share that in the research we do and in the classrooms we teach. And someone was asking again about another question, saying the citizens are paying tax, and why should they do what was supposed to be done by the government? Well, the reason why we are social workers is it's partly we are supporting activities that the government was supposed to do, but then for some reason they are not meeting the requirements. So we don't need to wait in many times for the government to do things, but it is for us to take the responsibility. Actually, the philosophy of Ubuntu, or whether we say Harambee, it exists exactly reflects what society is doing, what the community is doing. But again, when we talk about Harambee, we should not think of it only being able to be implemented at a higher level degree. This can happen in different ways, different scales. It can start from a small group of community. They can do Harambee according to the needs they have, and then go up the ladder to societal level. So it is not a theory or a philosophy that can address only one part or something that will encourage ethnocentrism. No, it's not like that. Because in Harambee, people do not come together according to ethnicity. They come together according to friendship, because people are friends with one another. They are neighbors with one another. Even villages where different people live, you will find different ethnic groups live because of the interest that they have together. That common interest helps them to come together and address the problems they have. So ethnic consciousness is one aspect about ethnicity, but then ethnocentrism is a different thing. Here, it does not encourage ethnocentrism, but rather it brings people together to go beyond ethnocentrism and serve a community. Thank you very much. This is where I stop. I think I took long, but at least.
Okay, wow. Thank you very much. Thank you all social workers. This was such an insightful session. I see we don't want to leave. Rugare, participants are still almost all there. So thank you so much, everyone. I can see all the reactions. Happy Social Work Month, guys. Yeah. So thank you so much. I think I'll just say a brief word. I think we remember what our panelists have talked about. We've looked at self-help, collective labor, social capital, leadership, mobilization, youth employment acceleration, which has been occurring in different parts of the world, social justice and human rights, decolonizing social work as aspects of Harambee. But we also know that there are gaps, and as we have said, there are socioeconomic pressures today. We have modernization and urbanization, and we also have generational gaps. And we can see questions about decolonization. What are we going to do? What can we think about? So thank you so much. I will give back the floor to Rugare to continue and end for us.
Thank you very much, Susan. And it was good to hear from Somalia. Thanks for joining. Colleagues, I've put the link to request your certificate. It's in chat, but it will also be emailed to you all. You use that link to request your certificate for attending today. Important insights and discussions. I would want us to keep discussing and hopefully produce more literature on Harambee itself as a concept. There isn't. The International Federation of Social Workers and the International Association of Schools of Social Work, they have given us the platform just as they did with Ubuntu. It is our responsibility to take that forward by publishing on it, by debating on it, bringing the different insights on Harambee. Let's take this as a provocation for us to do more around Harambee, to publish more, to say more, to talk more, to challenge the existing notions of Harambee and come up with notions that sit very well with where we are with African and as well as developmental social work. So I want to end by thanking colleagues for your contribution today. Corlie, who's the president of ASSWA, thank you very much for coming to speak with participants today. Most of them are members of ASSWA and also members of ASSWDNet, but many coming from outside Africa. Thank you, friends, for joining us today. I also want to thank you, Olabisi, for your presentation, taking us through the levels of Harambee, but also what the governments can do, what the African Union can do. I remember in a preparation discussion last week, you emphasized the role of the African Union. So I'm glad you talked about that today. I also wish to thank you, Wilkins, for your presentation, giving us local insights in terms of Harambee and also sharing local experience. We should value that. That's how knowledge is developed. That's how we build African social work and development. Lastly, to my co-moderator, Susan, who is the secretary for ASSWA, thank you so much for what we have done today and your role in mobilizing people, but also organizing and ensuring that we meet on time to ensure that the day succeeds. We have done well, and colleagues, you hear from us about the next collaborative activity that we'll be doing together. Some of you know that we do 4 collaborative activities each year. This is the first one. We have got an Africa Day in Durban, that's in May. Then we've got the Day of Older Persons or Mzee Day in October. And the last one is the Ubuntu lecture that comes in November, December. We do these activities collaboratively. I'm happy to end here, Susan, and stop the recording.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye. See you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you to the organizer.